Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial, we're going to start looking at the business of passing data to our view. So at the moment, I've got this simple application, which we've got one JSP in here. Let's go to the web content. So we've got this home.jsp file, and we're displaying that because we're telling the dispatcher servlet to display it using our controller, and our controller is it's in here. So we've got one controller. Now what we're missing here is we haven't got any source of data at the moment, and later on in another tutorial I'm going to start bringing in data from our previous tutorials. So we're going to bring in some of the data model, and we're going to look at how to connect to the database. But for the moment, even if I had data available, at the moment there's no way of passing it to this JSP. So the controller here should bring together the view and the data, or at least say how they should be brought together, and we should then be able to access the data specified by the controller in this JSP file here, which is our view, part of our view. So I'm going to show you in this tutorial like the beginnings of just a very simple way of passing data from here basically to here, and we'll then enlarge on that in the next tutorial, and we'll look at some more helpful ways than the simple way that we're about to see. But this method here, this handler method that handles my request mapping, is actually very flexible in the arguments that it accepts and the things that it returns. And if you go to the internet and search for something like Spring controller annotation, you'll hopefully find this document from Spring Source, or a similar document at least. You'll find some documentation somewhere for this, for the controller annotation. And if you scroll down here, we can see not only some examples, but we can also see that there are various supported method arguments and return types for that handler method in our controller. So I'm going to show you just a little smattering of the more interesting possibilities before we settle on one particular choice. But in this tutorial I'm just going to show you one in this particular video, which is that we can accept the HTTP session object and do stuff with that as a argument. So I'll go back to Eclipse here, and I'm not going to go over kind of servlet and JSP related concepts in any depth, because as I say, I have another tutorial on that, and you can find a discount for this included if you look at somewhere near the end of this tutorial. I'll attach some sort of coupon to the appendix or somewhere like that. But what I will do is I'll try to just briefly explain all the different things that we're going to use here, just in case you haven't seen them before and you don't want to particularly go away and study servlets and JSPs, although we are going to be certainly using them, and it's normal to use those kinds of concepts in Spring, especially JSPs. So all we have to do here, if we want to set something in the session, by the way, the session is an object that the idea is it's supposed to persist for as long as the user is using their browser. So until they close the browser, or until a timeout occurs because they've stopped clicking on your website, then the session object should persist. So if we type here in our handler for an argument HTTP session, let's call it session, then Spring makes available to us this session object, which we can then add data to, and we can then access that data in our JSP. So I'll just add the import for HTTP session here, and we'll just take a really simple example. I'll say session dot add set attribute, and this takes a key and a value, and the value can be any kind of object. For the key, let's just put name. So I'm just making up some key here. It's like a key in a map. And for the value, let's say let's just put Boris. So I can now access that in my JSP page. And when JSP pages were first created, the thinking was that the idea was that you could embed Java in them. But later on people realized that that's kind of mixing up your implementation with your view, and then it's actually very bad to have Java embedded in your Vue JSP. So we won't be doing that in future, but just to get us started here, I will actually embed some Java in this JSP using a expression tag. So I'm going to type here, let's see if control space will do anything for us, and indeed it will, but I'm not sure if it's got the actual tag that I want here. So let's just type a right sort of left pointing diamond bracket, and I'm going to type %equals, and you'll notice that Eclipse has automatically filled in the closing % tag for me. So I've got this tag here that looks like %equals and then closes with a % tag, and in there I can type Java code, which this tag is going to then display whatever that Java code evaluates to. So it should evaluate some kind of string. And here I'm going to type session, which is an implicit object that's available to us within these tags. Dot get attribute, and let's put in name there. So I'll save that, and let's also have a like a closing paragraph tag here. I'll just copy that and edit it because I have trouble typing closing diamond brackets on this system because it conflicts with some shortcut that I've got. And let's write here session. So we're using this expression tag to embed Java. Notice that you mustn't have the closing, you mustn't have a semicolon in here or it won't work. And we're using this implicit session object and doing get attribute. And this attribute that we're getting, this name attribute here, is exactly what we've just set here with set attribute. I gave that the name as the key as well. So we should be able to get this value Boris right here. And if you want more information on this, again, I have to refer you to my Servlets and JSP course, or a course, some course or tutorial or book on Servlets and JSPs. But let's just run this so that we can see that it's working. And here we can see Boris, which we've set into the session, and you would expect that to persist for as long as the user is using your website, basically. Now, that's not the most useful alternative here. So in the next tutorial, we're going to look at some more interesting alternatives, some arguments that we can accept here and things that we can return here. So until next time, happy coding.